Welcome to Fantasy Hockey TimBits late week pickups. Now, before we get started, I just want to ask, if you're new to this channel, please smash that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Now, quick note before we get started here, the following teams are playing Friday and then either once Saturday or Sunday. And I'm talking about Calgary, Edmonton, the Rangers, San Jose, the Knights, and the Winnipeg Jets. This is obviously so you can maximize your depth additions. And then the following 5 teams are playing back-to-back Saturday and Sunday, and that's Chicago, Columbus, the Islanders, Tampa Bay, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now let's begin with the forward bunch here. The following number of players, I haven't included Thursday's stats, so keep that in mind, but I'll let you know when that changes. Starting with the Anaheim Ducks and Trevor Zegras. The second line center, he's on the first power play unit, less than 27% owned, 12 points in the last 9 games. Stop the video right away. I know it's just started, but grab him. He's got 4 power play points, and he's second on the team when it comes to shots on net. Then there's Richard Rakell, who's second line, first power play. He is less than 20% owned and has 5 points in his last 6 games. He's got 3 power play points. He's only played 14 games on the year, and he gets a little less than 3.5 shots per game, so he's good for peripherals. Moving on to Arizona and Clayton Keller. Now, he's just over 56% owned, but he's first line, first power play. He's got 9 points in his last 7 games. See if he's available. Jeff Skinner from the Buffalo Sabres. The Notorious, that's right. Now, he's first line, first power play. He's got 5 points in his last 4 games, though, with just under 3 shots per game. At the very least, keep an eye on him. He's got most of those points versus Detroit, Montreal, and Seattle. Kyle Pozzo, also the Sabres, second line, second power play. Just over 3% owned, has 5 points in his last 4 games. He also shoots as well when it comes to peripherals. He's second on the Sabres in that category. Sticking with Buffalo, Dylan Cousins, second line, first power play, less than 2% owned, has 3 goals in his last 3 games. Now we're moving over to the Carolina Hurricanes with Nino Niederreiter, fourth line, but second power play, less than 45% owned, has 3 points in his last 3 games. Sticking with Carolina, Jesper Brat, he's starting to come alive. Now, he's the 4th line center right now, and he's on the second power play unit as well. He's less than 6% owned and has 4 points in his last 3 games. At least keep an eye on him. Moving over to Columbus, we've got Jacob Voracek, second line, first power play, less than 23% owned, has 3 points in his last 4 games, but he's got 10 power play points, puts up a decent amount of shots per game as well. Hopping over to the Colorado Avalanche, we've got Valerie Natochan, second line, second power play, less than 11% owned, and he has 9 points in his last 10 games. Colorado happens to be 8-2 when he's in the lineup, by the way. Starting with Detroit now, Robert Fabry. Bertuzzi is out because of COVID protocol at the moment, and he's been on that top line. He's also on the first power play unit because of it. He's not even 3% owned, and I think at the very least you have to keep an eye on this guy because he had a goal versus Seattle and his minutes almost doubled. Moving on to Edmonton with Zach Kassian. First line with McDavid. I know that changes quite a bit. He's also seen some power play time here and there. He's less than 7% owned and has 4 points in his last 3 games. Don't forget, he hits as well. For those of you who need peripherals, at the very least, keep an eye on him. Moving over to LA, we've got Victor Arvidsson, who plays both wings, although he's recently moved over to the right. He's on the second line now. First power play unit still, and he's got 3 points in his last 3 games. He's less than 8% owned. He's also got 4 shots on goal in his last game alone. Minnesota, Ryan Hartman. Stop the video right now and grab him. See if he's available. He's less than 50% owned. He's a second line center right now, second power play. Guy's got 8 points in his last 5 games. That includes last night as well, and he puts up a ton of shots. He's a gold mine right now. Grab him. Matt Zuccarello, shockingly second line first power play, is less than 36% owned. I've got him on my team. He's got 4 points in his last 3 games. He just came off the IR as well a couple of games ago now, I want to say. Marcus Felino, sticking with the Wild. First line, second power play, although he happens to go up and down the lineup. He's less than 25% owned, 3 points in his last 3 games. He hits a ton and puts up some decent penalty minutes as well, and he's got the second best plus-minus on the team. Moving over to the New Jersey Devils. Oh, I forgot to put my light up. There we go. Let there be light. Now, from the following players, all of them include last night's game. That kind of started with Natochan, but in any case, let's move over to Thomas Tata. He's on the third line right now, second power play. He's less than 33% owned, 5 points in his last 6 games, 4 of those goals, by the way, and he's averaging 14 to 15 minutes per game. So yeah, keep an eye on him. He tends to disappear. So next there's Jesper Brat, second line, second power play. He's less than 16% owned and has got 7 points in his last 6 games. He puts up a ton of shots, the second most on the team after Hamilton. Andreas Johnson, also with New Jersey, second line, second power play, 7 points in his last 4 games. Less than 10% owned. You know what to do. Moving over to Nashville, Michael Granlund, second line, first power play. He's less than 42% owned, and he's got 15 points in his last 11 games. Unreal there. I gotta flip a page. The forward group is so long. Ryan Johansen, also from the Preds. First line, first power play, less than 24% owned. He's got 9 points in his last 7 games. They did get shut out in their last game versus Buffalo on Friday. But otherwise, a lot of the guys in this group have been booming. Let's move over to the Rangers. Capo Kako. First line, second power play unit, less than 9% owned. All of a sudden, he's got 8 points in his last 7 games. At the very least, keep a close eye on him, because if he sticks up there on that number 1 line, maybe he'll finally start to come around here. Pittsburgh, Evan Rodrigues. He's on the first line, playing next to Crosby. First power play, less than 9% owned, 5 points in his last 6 games. He shoots a decent amount as well, second most on the Penguins. Moving over to Seattle, Yanni Gourde. Second line, second power play, less than 21% owned, and he's got 7 points in his last 6 games. Sticking with the Kraken, Donskoy, second line, first power play, less than 3% owned, 4 points in his last 3 games. Robert Thomas, we're now with the Blues. Second line, second power play. He's been steadily putting up points. I can't believe he's not more owned than roughly 13% right now. He's got 22 points in 23 games so far this season and 5 points in his last 4 games. His playmaking skills, as I've said in the past, are really coming together. Moving over to Tampa, Killhorn, second line, first power play, less than 56% owned still. 20 points in 22 games this season, including 3 points in his last 3 games. Still with the Lightning, Corey Perry is slowly starting to heat up, especially as he gets a bit more opportunity with all the injuries. He's third line, but second power play, less than 2% owned, has 5 points in his last 6 games, puts up a real decent amount of shots, and he hits as well. Toronto, Michael Bunting is on fire. Stop the video, grab him right now. Ever since they put him back on the line on that first unit with Matthews and Marner, he's been lighting it up. First line, second power play, has 9 points in his last 5 games. Less than 11% owned. Still with the Leafs, Alexander Kerfoot, second line. No special teams, but I know he occasionally sees both the power play and penalty kill. He's less than 3% owned, has 5 points in his last 4 games. He's also a plus 13, the best on the Leafs. Then we move to Vegas. Chandler Stevenson. He's 60% owned, so that's probably the max I'd ever go in this video, but I thought I'd throw him in here. First line, first power play, 20 points in 22 games so far this season, including 4 points in his last 4 games. Also, and lastly, with the forward bunch, but with Vegas, we've got Riley Smith, who's under 39% owned. He's second line, second power play, and he's got 10 points in his last 10 games, and he shoots a ton, the most on the Knights. So look into him. Let's move over to the defensemen, starting with Anaheim and Hampus Lindholm, who's on the first pairing, but not on any power play. He's less than 7% owned right now. Also has 2 goals in his last 2 games. He shoots and he blocks a fair amount as well. So if you're really desperate for defensemen, look for him. Shane Gostisfire, second pairing, first power play, less than 40% owned. And he's got 3 points in his last 5 games. He's cooled off a little bit. He shoots a fair amount though, so keep him in mind. Moving over to Columbus, Adam Boqvist. He's on the second pairing, first power play, less than 8% owned. He's got 5 points in his last 4 games. That was my phone just buzzing, by the way. And 3 of those points are goals. His minutes have gone way up in the last 2 games as well. Next is Evan Bouchard from the Edmonton Oilers. Now he's second pairing, second power play, less than 30% owned, has 3 points in his last 2 games. He shoots quite a bit, and he blocks shots as well. Sticking with Edmonton, Kurt Russell is now on the first pairing. First penalty kill, though. He's less than 2% owned. Now, this is, he doesn't put up many points, but he's for peripheral folks out there in those kind of leagues. He blocks a lot of shots, and he's got the 3rd best plus minus on the Oilers. Now we're moving over to LA with Alex Edler. Second pairing, first penalty kill, I know, but he's less than 4% owned, and he puts up a decent amount of peripherals when it comes to shots, hits, and block shots. He also has 2 points in his last 2 games. Is it Sean Durzi, I believe? The new kid in LA. He's got some hands, folks, and he can pass that puck as well. He's third pairing, but he's been also seen spotting on the power play here and there. He's less than 4% owned. He's got 4 points in his last 3 games. Now Minnesota, Jonas Brodin, first pairing, first power play. He's been there for like a week now. Less than 20% owned, 4 points in his last 4 games. He also shoots and blocks here and there. Sticking with Minnesota, Kulikov. He's on the third pairing. No special teams. Hear me out. Less than 1% owned, but has 5 points in his last 6 games. How long will this last? I don't know. He plays a little less than 17 minutes a game now. Moving over to New Jersey, Ryan Graves. First pairing, first penalty kill here. He's less than 23% owned. Now, he doesn't put up many points. He does have a goal in his last game, but he blocks a decent amount of shots, and he also shoots and hits. He puts up the peripherals. Now, for the Seattle Kraken, Jamie Oleksiak, another peripheral guy. However, he does have 4 points in his last, 7 games here. First pairing, second penalty kill unit, less than 5% owned. He hits a ton, and that's the second most on Seattle, believe it or not, just behind Tanev. Now over to the Sharks. A real kind of like maybe a bit of a diamond in the rough here. Jacob Middleton. He's on the second pairing. He plays with Carlson. He's less than 1% owned. And he only has 4 points in the last 17 games. But he's very even Steven when it comes to putting up peripherals. Shots, hits, blocks, and penalty minutes. I was kind of surprised to see that. Take a look at him. Tampa Bay, Eric Cernak. He's second pairing, first penalty K unit, less than 7% owned. He's back from injury just for the last couple of games. He only has 1 point in his last 2, but he shoots, hits, and blocks a fair deal. And lastly here from the Washington Capitals on defense, I've got Dmitry Orlov, who is on the second pairing, second power play unit, has 7 points in his last 6 games. Not to mention he also shoots, hits, and blocks, and is less than 33% owned. Now, to goaltenders. This is a long video. Oh boy. Let's start with Stolaras from the Anaheim Ducks. He's a .919 save percentage. Look for him to play on back-to-backs. He's won his last 3 games. Vladar from the Calgary Flames. He's a .946 save percentage. Ditto with him in back-to-backs. He's won 4 of his last 5. Holtby, he's under 16% owned. He's got a .927 save percentage, and he's won his last 2 versus Arizona and Carolina. Sticking with Dallas, Ottinger is less than 26% owned with a .959 save percentage. He's won all 4 games so far that he's been recalled for. We'll see if they pull Hudobin back in or Bishop gets healthy, but keep a close eye on that situation. Moving over to Detroit and Nedeljkovic. He's less than 50% owned with a .923 save percentage, and he's won his last 3 games against Boston, Buffalo, and St. Louis. He may be a keeper there. Next is Koskinen, who keeps on hitting the waiver wire here and there. He's less than 54% owned, .914 save percentage. Not bad. He's won his last 3 in a row now. Kähkönen from the Minnesota Wild. All of a sudden, he's won his last 2 games. He's less than 5% owned, and those 2 games were against New Jersey and Arizona, by the way. He's still at .895 save percentage, but he's had a .935 in his last 2 games. Now with the Sharks, James Reimer. He's on here every week. He's got a .934 save percentage, less than 33% owned. He's won 8 of 13 games in 4 of his last 5 games. Little bump in the road there against the Maple Leafs, though. Speaking of which, Justin Woll, who was brought up from the AHL, the rookie, is now 3 for 3. And he may play one of the games this weekend. He's got a .939 save percentage. There you have it. Sorry for the long video. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, which will alert you on my next video. If you want to support me or the channel, please go to my crowdfunding page, buy me a coffee. You can find a link on my page or in the description box. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments section as well. Thank you once again. Please be kind to each other in this gonzo world we're living in right now, and I'll see you soon.